Welcome, bienvenidos, Nkwan basalam metachu to all of our wonderful listeners and watchers out there. We just watched UFC 235 and we have some thoughts. We're gonna kind of go through the fights that stuck out to us on this card, and if we feel that we have any time, then we're gonna continue to some of the many events that have been going on the past couple weeks. Seems like fresh into 2019, a lot of shit has been going down, and that's why we're here to give you our 2 cents. White belt MMA, Rastin Karami, Henok Elias. Okay, I think it makes sense to start towards the bottom of the card. We could start at the top and go down, or bottom, or randomize it.
I mean, let's just do bottom, but I feel like you introed it so well, and I didn't add the Farsi in there.
Throw it in, baby.
No, I think it's too late. I think
Throw it in. Throw it in.
I think we should have.
Shamache Tori to our Farsi listeners out there. Hamichi Khubas Tukhud in our area. Any Farsi you want to add?
I think you covered it. How about we start with that bantamweight fight with Macy Chiasson? I think she was the Ultimate Fighter winner, and my wife doesn't like MMA at all, and she watched the Ultimate Fighter with me and got super into it.
She was the big one, right? Really
yeah,
tall.
This was the featherweight, and she fucking dropped down to bantamweight for this card, and I don't know if it's because she doesn't want to fight the bigger girls, but
yeah, she don't want that cyborg smoke, or she don't want that Nunes smoke.
She's huge though.
Holy
she's like 5'11", you know.
And with the PFL on ESPN as well, she might get that Kayla, that Kayla hair.
Anyway,
judo champ.
She was dominant, got the finish, and that just shows that Fortis MMA. That's a huge camp coming up, man. They're really like.
Where are they?
I think it's Texas. Oh. You know what it is? Darren Williams, NBA reference. That's the camp that he.
Your boy.
Yes.
And NBA 2K, which we call Naba. That's his character right there. He would say D Will would assert his will. So now he's asserting his will in MMA.
Yeah, but Fortis MMA, I think he co-owns it. But they're really coming up. They're winning all their fights, and it's one to watch for sure. And then the other prelim fight that I was like kind of intrigued about.
You mean the pre-prelim, right?
Pre-prelim.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah, the Fight Pass prelims, which they somehow still have going, even though there's ESPN prelims.
Hey, I'm not mad at it. We got an account on that. We got the ESPN Plus account and the pay-per-view. We watching it all, baby.
Yeah, all the expenses.
Fight fanatics out here.
The middleweight fight with Edmund Shabazian, the Armenian guy from Glendale. Local.
Yeah, local. We know a lot of cats in the Glendale area. We know a lot of Armenians out there too. Their connections to Iranian and Ethiopian culture with Armenia, so we got that connect.
And I think he's managed by Ronda Rousey.
Yeah,
because Ronda trained out of Glendale.
Yeah,
and he was undefeated. He came in. To be honest, his record was a little sketchy. Like all the guys he's beaten had losing records. I think like all of his wins were like against guys with sub 500 records. So you don't know how good he was coming in. And
his ultimate testing ground.
For sure, and he won his first fight, but it was a terrible fight in the UFC.
Why?
It was not this one. This was the second fight.
His first fight, like, what? That was
his
a good
first fight in the UFC was on the Ultimate Fighter finale, and he was like, it was like bad wrestling, bad striking. He looked terrible.
Okay.
And everyone was like, okay, as soon as he gets a tough guy, he's gonna lose.
Yep.
And then he got a moderately tough guy, another Fortis MMA guy, which I just talked about as a good camp. And this guy went in for a takedown, and he gave him the Travis Brown elbows.
Yo, it was quick. 30 seconds?
Something like that. He gave him the Travis Brown elbows and finished him.
Did he actually pass out, or did the ref stop it?
No, because he kind of fell off the elbows and landed on it, and then it was, I think, some ground and pound to finish off. Like I think it was like a pretty straightforward finish.
It was conclusive. I just don't remember if the ref grabbed him or not.
No, I think it was after the fact. But that was interesting. I want to see him against tougher guys. We'll see what happens in the future for him. Kind of intrigued. And then the prelims were fantastic too. I don't know if you want to pick out any.
Yeah, the ones on ESPN.
Yeah, the regular prelims were fantastic.
I mainly just focus on like Diego Sanchez versus Mickey Gall, and then Zabit versus Jeremy Stevens.
What do you think about Diego?
So whichever one,
I want to know your input on Diego and Mickey, because you were talking about Mickey's jits prior to this fight.
Yeah, I love his Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It's classic. It's more oriented on position and control, not a lot of leg locks, but looking to basically choke the guy out. I think he's got 5 wins with 2 losses now, and I think all 5 have been rear naked strangle. So I'm impressed with his jiu-jitsu.
I love that you refer to the Dana Hair strangle rather than choke.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the philology debate right now with the nuances between the strangle or a choke, but yeah, I respect that man's wisdom in mixed martial arts. So without sidetracking too much on that, getting back to the fight, what I was and I do like the Muay Thai that he's training at the Yard, also a local fighter in downtown LA. But Diego
that's Joe
Sanchez,
Schilling, right? Joe
that's
Schilling,
right, right, of Bellator fame right now, and before that he fought Glory, I want to say.
Probably the best 3 and 5 fighter in the world, I would say,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, I'd love to train with them seriously one day. But what I was thoroughly impressed by is the veteran Diego Sanchez, who showed us how you can use body shots and pressure to just drain a man of the oxygen in him.
He had no energy.
He had no energy. Mickey Gall was going for some haymakers after haymakers, trying to get a quick knockout on the veteran and make a name out of him, like he made a name out of himself when he dominated that WWE wrestler. What was his name?
CM Punk.
CM Punk, yeah.
Yes,
So I think he was trying to make a name out of Diego Sanchez, but that man who was from the original, you talked about Tough recently that you and your wife were watching. This guy was from the original Tough, and he's still out here. They said that he hadn't finished an opponent in 11 years. And so this was well deserved. Any different thoughts? Same thoughts?
No, I thought Diego fought a veteran fight against a guy with 6 fights. It really looked like that to me. It was like 30 fights to 6 fights. And Diego, like, I don't know where you go next with him. I don't know if you can give him a ranked guy. He's won 2 in a row at welterweight. He's like a career lightweight, I think.
We can get to it, but
I don't know.
I think Robbie Lawler deserves a great sparring partner. I think those two veterans, that'd be a scrap.
I don't want to go into that fight quite yet, but Robbie probably deserves someone bigger after that performance.
I can expect it.
Another fight on the prelim card that we loved, and I think I called it the second before it started that it was going to be a first-round KO within a minute, and that was Johnny Walker over Misha Serkinov.
I forgot that was on the prelims. I thought it was on the main card.
No,
you're right. You're 100% right. It was really, 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 really dumb, and it shows you something that I think Rogan talks about a lot. It was dumb that he dislocated his shoulder by doing a worm in celebration after the fight.
But I kind of fuck with it because he's funny as hell.
Because you do the worm. This man used to do the worm. Man, I'm a witness. You good too.
You're talking about shit from.
But anyway, the thing Rogan always says is that the behavior that makes this man an exceptional fighter, the lack of risk averseness that made this man win 3 fights in 4 months in the UFC with all of the time racked up to under 3 minutes, which is less than 1 round in a normal match. That type of lack of risk averseness is the same behavior that would have him do the worm in celebration and injure himself.
Probably. And
so maybe he wouldn't have it.
I mean, you also have to chalk it up to him probably being a heavyweight, fighting at 205. He's huge.
Yeah, how much did you say he weighed?
He walks around close to 240.
I don't understand.
6'6". He's huge.
I really don't understand.
Misha's not a small light heavyweight. Misha's 6'3", and he's barely making 205 himself, but he looked small.
And he's probably the deadliest that Johnny Walker's faced yet as a submission specialist.
BJJ guy, black belt for sure.
But I know you're a big believer in the kind of the metrics, right? The height, the weight you discussed, in addition to the technique of that flying knee.
Yeah, he's got good Muay Thai. He's a striker. He's got good Muay Thai, and that's it.
And he's not a classic guy who tactically breaks you down. He just throws wild movements at you that you cannot expect.
He fought the fight that Anthony Smith should have fought tonight. I don't know. We'll get to that later, but he should have came at it in that kind of way.
Hey, maybe you'll get him versus Anthony Smith next. We'll see.
Oh, that would be fun. I don't think he would give him that high of an opponent yet, but I like your matchmaking already.
It's possible.
Yeah. Let's move on quickly to
Zabit?
The prelim.
Or was there anything besides that?
No, the prelim headliner was Zabit and Jeremy, which I said was going to be him versus Kyle Bochniak 2.0 because Stevens does everything Bochniak could do, but maybe even better.
But we still might not have seen the full arsenal of the Gung Fu wrestler.
Gung Fu. I think you audibly screamed when he did that off the cage kick. Yo. It was like better than the Showtime kick of Anthony Pettis.
Yo, one of my favorite basketball players of all time is Tony Allen. I once was live at a game with the Grizzlies versus the Clippers.
That's a deep cut. Tony Allen, best favorite basketball player.
He kicked a man who is more than 6 foot tall, Chris Paul, in the face, and he said he did it on accident. I bring that little tidbit up to say that this man's Zabit that you're talking about, he didn't jump off the cage at like yay tall or yay tall.
It was the top of the cage.
It looked like he hit the cage at like 6 feet or 7 feet and then came off with a swing and a miss. But I appreciate the theatrics. The man wants fight of the night. The man's trying to get that bag.
Yeah, and I don't know if people from Dagestan are known for being supremely athletic, but maybe it was a pretty athletic move.
Hey, when you're that slim at 6'1", 74, reach, but weighing in at 145 on weigh-in days.
And this is one of the fights on the card that I actually picked, incorrectly. And I'm kind of okay with it because Zabit's great. He's great to watch. But I thought Stevens was going to KO him because Zabit really comes in kind of careless with his technique sometimes. Like he could get hit. Sometimes his hands are down and he's doing wild shit and he could get hit if Jeremy had to get inside. Zabit's a lot bigger than him and he had to get inside and get one hit. It just didn't work out.
What do you think about, Jeremy Stevens tagging him up in the third round versus Zabit's kind of wrestling control in the second?
Yeah, I think that's exactly like you said. I think Zabit won the second round with ground control, and Jeremy Stevens was lighting him up in the third round, and then Zabit basically played it safe to finish off the fight. It was like the last minute, and he was just like, I need to secure this fight. I'm going to go for his leg. I'm going to hold him there. I'm going to stall. And I don't
turn it up a little in the last 15 seconds.
I
want to
like
say
a last little scrap.
It almost looked like they were going to have, to your analogy, a Bachniak moment,
Yeah, where they're just like, let's just leave it right here.
Laugh and beat each other in the face when blood
is
everywhere.
They fucking didn't like each other, though. I don't know if it stems from
that. You're talking about the dirtiness?
Yeah, after the first round or something, there was pushing and shoving afterwards.
After the bell rung, after the ref called a stop to it.
I thought they were very jovial and they were laughing I think it was in the media day.
Yeah.
And then they seemed like they hate each other. I don't know what happened in between.
Yeah, it's hard. Shit talking is hard when you don't speak each other's language. There was a lot of non-verbals going on. And I think they was getting a little too close to each other at some points. There are also maybe cultural sensitivity differences. Maybe Jeremy thought that Zabit crossed the line at some point. I'm not entirely sure.
I still find it ridiculous that Zabit fights at 145 when he's as tall as you are at 6'1".
Yeah,
and I think that's crazy. And I think eventually he'll be 155er.
Yeah,
and like you said, I would love a fight with him and Khabib one day.
But he has his fellow Dagestanis, Khabib and Islam, at 155 right now, who are high up in the ranks. So that might cause some tension, right?
Maybe. We'll see. They might fight each other for the shot.
Who would you like to see them boys fight next at 145?
At 145, I think Zabit, an interesting fight with him would be, I think he wants Volkanovski or Aldo, but Aldo is probably going to get Ortega, I think, at 237. Then they're probably negotiating that one.
I would not like that. I'd like a tune-up fight for
Ortega. It's Ortega going into the fire right after Max Holloway going right into the fire.
Hey, the best should fight the best.
Yeah, I think, but I don't agree with Zabit going for those two guys. Like, why would you kill the prospect Volkanovski or get killed in the process? Or I think a better fight would be going back to that Yair fight because he wanted Yair really badly. Yair got Korean Zombie and went through that war and got that crazy elbow finish.
Yeah, that was the knockout of the century.
Yeah, year. I'll give it a year. But
bro, that was the invisible elbow. I don't know where that came from.
I would love that fight. Zombie versus Zabit would be an awesome fight. I still want that.
Nice.
What about you?
I would agree. I'd agree with all those, man. All those, honestly. 145 does seem to be like it's going to be in a logjam, though, because the champ is about to move up and fight Dustin Poirier.
I don't know if that's a permanent move either. I don't know if that's permanent or if he's just going
if he wins, I don't know. If he's still good at weight cutting, he could defend both belts, That'd be a savage move.
Maybe. But
DC's defended both belts.
There's too much
and they're fans of each other. He's called DC out.
Jokingly. But I think Zabit won't fight Edgar. So what are you gonna do with Frankie Edgar in that way? Maybe you could do Edgar versus Volkanovski. That'd be two wrestlers going at it, and that'd be a number one contender fight too.
I would love that.
Anyway, we still haven't gotten to the main card. We've been talking about prelims for
Let's do it, man.
I don't know how long. First fight, the one Joe Rastusha missed.
That's right. Kempo black belt American wrestler. My old roommate.
Let's call him out so he joins the podcast.
Our first observer, live audience for this great and established podcast, White Belt MMA.
I'm pretty sure he fell asleep out there. I didn't even see him move.
No, I think he's taking notes, bro. He's gonna have some bloopers for us and for the fans.
But yeah, that first fight was Cody and Pedro, and it ended very quickly. It was a first rounder. And Cody did the same shit he did in the last two fights. He didn't learn one thing from the TJ fight. He went in crazy and got rocked, and that was it.
This fight reminded me of the latest Aaron Pico fight, and what it reminded me of was also Cody's fight against TJ Dillashaw, really both his fights against TJ Dillashaw. And that is, if you have skills in Muay Thai or in kickboxing, there is a tactical way to go against someone. Even when you have that tactical way, you could still lose off of, a critical hit that lands. But there's also a way of throwing all your techniques out the window and just allowing it to be 50-50. What we saw was Cody and Pedro, who's known for guillotines and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, knocking each other out. They had knockdowns on both guys, but at least on this
He's got
night,
a good chin, though.
Pedro had a better chin. But
Yeah.
I don't know how long that chin's gonna last. That's why I'm biased not to grappling just for the sake of being biased to grappling, but because it is the lowest risk longevity way to defeat people over time. And this way, it's not good for longevity. It's not good for anti-aging, which is what Diego Sanchez says he's going to get into after MMA.
Bizarre.
It's interesting.
Bizarre. For
I'd
sure.
love to know what the hell that means, and I want to hop on that bandwagon.
Diego,
bro, hire me.
Yeah.
Hire me, bro.
Send a DM about the anti-aging.
Yeah, let it go down in the DM.
But yeah, I think that I would say Cody has a little bit more technique and a little bit more defense than Aaron Pico. I don't know if you could put him exactly.
You mean in these situations or overall? Or?
Overall, I mean, I've watched quite a bit of his fights before
Yeah.
this pay-per-view, and I think you can't quite say that's exactly the same situation, but I understand your point about the lack of defense. It was a fun fight, though. The last minute was a scrap, enjoyable. The rest of the card didn't have any other finishes. No, I'm sorry. Ben Askren did get a submission.
We'll get to that. Did you not want to talk about your girl Weili versus Torres?
Oh, man, Weili Zhang. I hope she's a strawweight champ this year. I'm telling you, man. She's 18 wins in a row now.
19, actually.
19
She's
wins
19
in a row.
and 1. She lost her first match and has won 19 straight.
She did look shaky, though. I mean, Tisha did a good job. She looked shaky at times, but I think overall pretty dominant, and I
Yeah.
want to see her against tougher people.
I mean, she won by decision, but the decision that she won it's one of the greatest decisions that you can win. It's the ref pulling you off while delivering elbows from like half guard or side control. It's like a weird half guard side control. It might have been a quarter guard and then side control. A little bit of her leg was covered while she was in side control, just delivering and raining and hailing elbows on her.
She's so violent for a strawweight.
I love it.
Like
Yeah.
you don't see strawweights being that violent. I mean, Andrade.
115 pounds for those who
Yeah.
don't know what strawweight means.
Andrade is pretty violent, and she's fighting Rose in Brazil, but not many of them are like that. I can't see like karate hottie Michelle Watterson fighting like that. You know, it's pretty violent.
Hey, sometimes your opponent brings it out of you, so maybe if they scrap, it'll be like that.
I can't wait to see who they match her up with. But let's get to, I think, what we thought was our main event. Is that safe to say?
Definitely,
fight was
definitely.
on
And we
there.
touched this a little bit, but let's touch it some more.
And that was Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler. I could like do a whole podcast on that for 4 minutes that happened there. And I thought, you know what? I feel so bad for Robbie. You know, I'm happy Ben won, and Ben like probably deserved it at the end. I don't
He
know.
did all the right things.
I mean, he didn't do anything wrong.
He
didn't do
did
anything
more
wrong.
than all of the right
Yeah, he
things.
didn't do anything wrong. He survived. He showed a lot of grit. Robbie had him rocked. Like, and if you looked at the end of the fight, if you looked at their faces, Ben is bleeding, like tired.
How did he
barely
rock
moving.
him? How did he rock him?
Dude, he angle slammed him. It looked like he angle slammed him. He had him flying in the air.
And before that, how about the strikes? The
No,
blood?
that wasn't before.
Oh, was that after?
No, Ben goes in for the takedown.
Oh, that's right, from top control.
And basically, Robbie's stalling, and
Yeah.
then he lifts an Olympian in the air, throws him almost on his neck. It was quite
Yeah.
dangerous.
We weren't
And
sure if he
then-
was going to toss him out the cage.
And ground and pound that was vicious. It looked
Jeez.
like it was going to finish him. And you know what?
Yeah.
Herb could have stopped it for that versus...
I don't want to
when he stopped
single that
it.
man out. He's a great ref if you saw how he let, and we'll get to it, but the
I've seen-
light heavyweight fight, he let that go a little long, which I
Yeah.
appreciate in terms of the cage wrestling, unlike we'll get to what Goddard was up to. But he, yeah, man, I gotta appreciate the way he
No,
said it.
you know, and he was like... I felt bad because he finished the fight. It looked like, for me, I've seen quicker finishes.
Another person would have called the fight for Robbie Ruthless Lawler when he was on top, wailing on Ben.
Yeah.
But if you know Ben, being 18-0, being this great prospect
They let it
in
go
the
because
UFC,
of that. They didn't want him to go out.
but
so
he was
quickly.
also lifting and fighting. He was still crawling. He was crawling. He looked rock, but he was making moves towards, and he did eventually flip the situation.
I've seen fights stopped for less. Oh, yeah, I think your ride is arrived, right?
That's all right. We keep going, baby.
Yeah, but let's say...
Talk about how it
though.
finished,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And then Ben showed real determination to get it done and get a bulldog choke. Not even jiu-jitsu. Like, just using absolute, like, bully tactics. Just putting him in the bulldog choke.
Well, Ben is
Which is
not
not-
a jiu-jitsu person. He criticizes jiu-jitsu all the time. My
He trains
own
with
my
Jim
own
Danaher.
teacher, Crone,
And-
he commented on Crone's victory by saying that social media was so happy by seeing one Gracie Jiu-Jitsu expert, whereas when you see multiple champions of Olympic caliber wrestling going up there, when you see DC at that light heavyweight and heavyweight, when you see the Australian champion Robert Whittaker at 185, when you see Cejudo at 125 and then just beating the 135 champ when he came down to him, when the 135 champ has also got a collegiate wrestling background. So Ben has had some critical things to say.
The difference there is that Ben trained in the Blue Dungeon with Danaher before, and he's done quite a few sessions.
But he wasn't doing a lot of dangerous submissions. You didn't see him going for a heel hook or anything like that.
But the point with this,
he did that what do you call it? The schoolyard bulldog or bully choke.
Not under the chin. The choke wasn't like taking the air out of Robbie. It was stress on his jaw slash
the mandible.
Mouth area.
Yeah.
And
maybe the eye a little bit.
Maybe. But then, I mean, I know he didn't respond right away to Herb. And
well, first his arm dropped. His arm was up and it dropped to the floor. In response to that, Herb Dean came and asked him, and like you said, he didn't respond.
He didn't respond, but he could have had his mouth covered. Maybe he didn't respond. I don't know.
I personally believe he was unconscious for at least 1 or 2 seconds.
He popped
and then
back up.
Herb, well, before he popped up, Herb Dean grabbed his hand. And when he grabbed his hand and tried to lift it, at that point, I believe that Lawler came back to consciousness.
Maybe.
And even after Herb told Ben to get off, Ben kept holding it a little bit.
Because Ben was surprised. Ben didn't think that was a tapping situation.
Yeah.
I think Ben was just holding on. Let me get this round done. Let's go to round 2. I'll wrestle him again in round 2.
Yeah.
We don't know. But still, interesting fight. I think with Ben, I don't know where you go next with him. I don't know. Maybe since Kamaru probably is going to fight Colby. I don't know who you get. Maybe Darren Till would be interesting to see.
Well,
if Darren Till beats Masvidal.
Correct. The winner of that versus Askren, I believe, would be a great fight for the #1 contender versus the winner of Usman versus Colby, which is, in my opinion, set in stone right now because Colby and him have been talking shit for a long time, and Usman says that he deserves to give a whooping to Colby. So Usman, the champ, really wants to fight him. So I think, and Colby really wants the real belt. He's been carrying around this interim title that he went and presented to MAGA leader Donald Trump.
The disruptor.
And he's still carrying it around with his megaphone, talking mad smack to people who are actually fighting.
I think the Kamaru Colby fight is a good transition to Usman versus Woodley. And what did you think of that fight, to be honest? I don't know. I was the least interested in that fight, of the fight.
You mean after or before?
Before, even.
I was looking forward to it because they have very similar styles. What is interesting...
I just don't love Usman's technique. I don't know. I
loved it. Africa. Look, I actually was rooting for Tyron to win because I'm also a fan of Askren and that style. But I always love the best man winning, and I cannot be mad when another African wins. This might be the year of Africa with him and with Israel Adesanya at 185 in the UFC. With the heavyweights, we have Anthony Joshua, who is a child of Nigerians, whereas Israel and Kamaru are both from Nigeria.
What about Francis Ngannou?
Francis Ngannou, Cameroonian. There are a lot of people out there. Czech Congo is calling out Ryan Bader in Bellator heavyweights. There's another African for you.
Although I thought he lost his fight to me.
Which I think the most interesting thing, and this came out in a Luke Thomas interview with Kamaru Usman that I was watching earlier this week in prep for this fight, is that Usman was a Division II wrestler. Tyron Woodley,
Division II
champion. Tyron Woodley is a Division I wrestler in college. They knew of each other. They knew about each other. And Kamaru was describing all the D1 athletes as people who are overall generally good and better than D2 athletes, but that they have this prep school kid attitude where they're too cocky, too haughty, too arrogant, too insolent. And he said that he was an anomalous D2 person. He said there are anomalies in D2 wrestling and D3 wrestling who either for academics or other reason or financial, whatever reason, couldn't make it to D1, but still had the requisite skill. Here, he showed 100% total domination through wrestling the entire time. There were a couple attempts.
What was dominant in his wrestling?
He shoulder popped him. He get maybe 200 liver strikes to the body. He took him down like no one has ever. I think they said the statistic was that Tyron had only been taken down once before. He has some of the best takedown D. Kamaru took him down with ease several times.
No, I think the takedowns were legit. I think he did a lot of stalling post the takedowns. And yes, I mean, he got the job done. Tyron was completely immobilized. You could say that. He completely immobilized Tyron.
Yeah.
And to me, was that the most interesting fight of the card? No. But Kamaru got it done. Give mad respect to him for getting it done.
So let's get to the championship, the other championship title match. John Jones, potential GOAT, but does have dark clouds surrounding him.
Big asterisk next to potential GOAT.
Versus Anthony the Lionheart Smith.
Yeah.
What you think?
I think John Jones probably should have lost that fight by disqualification, and I don't know what
Anthony
Smith is thinking
to
not take the pay-per-view points. Think about it this way. Anthony Smith is champion, right? You know what that match brings up? That brings up a rematch against John Jones.
Tell him what the illegal strikes were, though.
We'll get to that. But what I'm saying, okay, Anthony Smith, let's say he wins by disqualification.
Uh-huh.
They rebook a fight, rematch. He's the champion.
You think so?
Of course, immediate, because John Jones is the GOAT. And then guess what? He gets the pay-per-view points of being the champion. He gets millions of dollars. But he just decided to use the Lionheart.
Well, this is the classic debate about ethics that are based on principles versus ethics based off of pragmatism. Realism versus idealism, kind of these Kantian ethics that are imperative for all times, all situations. That's what it is. That's what it is. He's a Kantian. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's really...
Anthony Smith may have never read Immanuel Kant, but he is living Kantian philosophy
don't count him out. Don't count him out.
I'm saying may. I don't know. I don't know the case. But he showed that he is more interested in the principle of the matter and wants to win, in his eyes, fairly. Even though the rules would dictate that he could have legitimately won, he wouldn't have felt good. It would have felt like a consolation prize to him had he beaten John Jones.
Sure, but I think you...
So he's not just about the bag.
Some people would take
people interested in just the bag and just the money and just the theatrics, yes. But today we learned Anthony Smith is a fighter. He is a fighter's fighter, and the same thing. Interesting.
I just wish he was a better fighter.
But listen, the two championship matches were seriously the same in this way. Tyron Woodley and Anthony Smith, all they tried to do was survive. And the other side, in Kamaru's case, the challenger, in John Jones' case, the champion defending, showed total domination and total offense.
The entire fight, I think you heard me, and I was saying, he's going about this all wrong, Anthony Smith. He is allowing John Jones to be John Jones and pick him apart.
He admitted that after the fight, too.
He did. And the thing is, I was yelling at him to go forward, to make it crazy, to make Jones have to deal with, like, crazy hooks coming out of nowhere. And
what you want is Johnny Walker.
Sure, exactly. But
at least in style.
And yes, he might get taken down. Yes, he's respecting John Jones' wrestling. And he's taking it easy, but there's no way you're going to win like that. You're going to win on some crazy shit. That's the only way it was going to go down. So I don't know what you do with them next. I don't know who John Jones is going to fight next. Maybe he'll fight a heavyweight. Maybe he'll fight Brock Lesnar. Maybe he'll fight DC.
The way he was talking in that commentary with Joe Rogan seems like he don't want none of that smoke from Daniel Cormier at heavyweight.
That's a big pay-per-view. Who's a big pay-per-view? Thiago Santos? That's not a big pay-per-view.
He's not interested in big pay-per-views. He's interested in being the most dominant person at light heavyweight of all time. He just wants to get 10, 20 more wins in a row at light heavyweight.
Okay, so
and then after that, maybe.
Probably Thiago Santos. What's more interesting was what they do with Anthony Smith. I think who do you want for Anthony Smith? I think you mentioned it while they were fighting.
I'd like to see him fight Gustafsson next. That would be a cool fight. Yeah. I think you believe who will win?
Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson has
by.
He's gonna wrestle him. He's gonna put him on the ground and he's gonna wrestle him and then he's gonna ground him out.
Gustafsson is the only person to have ever taken down John Jones. Fact check me if I'm wrong on that, but I don't even think DC has, who is another Olympic wrestler we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. But Anthony Smith has similar kind of build, and I know you're again interested in the metrics of people.
Yeah, it could be. But I think that overall I was pretty satisfied with that card. It lived up to the card of the year so far, as it has been called, and look forward to more violence in our future.
I like what Robin Black always says when he says, enjoy the hostilities. These were hostilities I enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed them. Next time, I do want to touch a little bit on the combat jiu-jitsu fight night that happened. Some disappointments about how it didn't go into that.
Next time we'll cover way more stuff.
And I want to talk about the philosophy of fight format You know, kind of this balance between entertainment and
And
sport.
of course, having Joe Rastusha on the pod next.
One day, if he blesses us with his presence, that would be beautiful. But the kind of fight philosophy I want to talk about is that I have seen, and I wrote it on my little boogie board earlier, the little scribbling thing.
That old new tech.
Yeah. The blackboard that you could doodle on. But anyway, there are a number of fighters who have won decision fights. I don't believe in decisions. We'll get to that later. But a number of people who have won decision fights and have crazy things happen to them. Mirko Krokop won a decision fight against big country Roy Nelson, gets a stroke, retires. Robert Whittaker wins 2 decision matches against Yoel Romero, 10 total rounds, with a monster, also an Olympian from 2008, from that same time period, but representing Cuba instead of America, and gets a hernia and collapsed bowels. We have the Irish Dragon getting kicked and getting winning a decision, but eventually having a kick deal later damage that punctures a lung. I think the list could go on and on and on, and we'll discuss the merits of that, I think, unless you have any thoughts you want to share right now.
Quickly,
but I think that if you get some sort of lasting damage to you, there should be some decisions overturned, if decisions exist at all.
Well, I think you can't really consider Whittaker in there because I feel that happened in training rather than in the Yoel fight.
Possible.
Probably more, the time frame makes more sense. But
certainly didn't help.
I don't think you should take away wins from fighters just because they got hurt afterwards. I think that's a little ridiculous, but we can debate that on a further show. It's been a pleasure.